The indie scene on the Dreamcast has been going strong for a number of years now. We've gotten a ton of shoot-'em-ups, a few racing games, and even some decent platformers. Sometimes we get stuff I don't even hear about until well after the fact. When I was made aware there was a game called Shadow Games in development for the Dreamcast, I fired up the demo to see what it was all about. Needless to say, the Shinobi influence was immediate and undeniable. This was almost a modern reskin of the original Shinobi arcade game, right down to freeing hostages and the ninja magic. Well, this past July saw a final release, and I've put in some time to bring you a review. Before I begin, I wanted to say much of the footage you'll see here was captured from the emulator Redream, which had an odd stutter which cropped up when used with my screen capture software. Let me assure you the Dreamcast version on real hardware runs super smooth, so I've decided to label the footage so it's clear which version you are actually seeing. With that said, let's jump right into Shadow Games for the Sega Dreamcast. The story here begins with a super secret ninja order being thrown into chaos by the Shadow Gangs, a nefarious group with some not so noble intentions. The war that raged between the two groups has resulted in countless casualties, betrayals, and now kidnappings. As Master Dan, you have been trying to deal with the conflict as best you can, but now the Shadow Gangs have taken your family, your fellow ninja, and forced your hand. It's time to visit some ninja justice and kick some serious ass. As you have heard mentioned numerous times by now, this is Shinobi inspired start to finish. And when I say Shinobi, I mean the first System 16 arcade title by Sega. Here you will find a very similar setup. There are a set number of hostages that must be rescued to finish a stage. Even if you get to the end of an area, you cannot proceed unless all the ninjas have been freed. The stages here also have upper and lower areas to fight on. Like Shinobi, you can do a super jump to get to higher ground, which often has power-ups and hostages to be saved. There are two forms you will be doing battle in. The first is your standard beginning form, which is just a normal looking dude in street clothes. There's nothing special about you. You have ninja stars, but they are easily blocked by damn near every enemy. You have a few close-in melee attacks, but they are weak and ineffective against the stronger enemies. Fortunately, the ninja icon is the great equalizer, because it transforms you into a badass capable of deploying mines, taking control of drones, using a powerful katana sword, shooting rockets, and blasting enemies with your screen-clearing magic attacks. You can also double jump, which plays a bigger role as the game progresses. Enemies are extremely similar in design to Shinobi as well. You have the strong guys that guard the hostages. They tend to block everything and you need to be careful because they have both melee and projectile-based attacks. The foot soldiers are the easy guys that are slow and basically walk straight into your attacks. They are many but rarely pose any real danger. The most potent of the enemies you face will be the other ninja. As you probably have guessed, these dudes appear out of nowhere and often jump straight at you with blades extended for quick and easy damage. These guys are bad enough during the early stages, but in the late game, they will send you to more deaths than you can count. Late game enemies include lizard men, dragons, and a female that throws fans at you. Though fewer in number, they too draw copious amounts of blood and send you to the continue screen again and again. Each level contains multiple stages and of course a boss battle to wrap things up. They are tough and can rip through you in no time while you are learning their patterns. You also have access to bonus stages where you shoot bad guys for additional rewards. Shadow Games is a great looking game. It runs in 480p at 60 frames per second, not to mention the color and detail is outstanding. Backgrounds have plenty of depth thanks to multiple layers of parallax scrolling. I mean, there is not a single ugly asset in this entire game. Just look at these enemies. And the developers really put up some great variety in the areas you fight across. Whether it's in the city, a forest, a cave, an industrial complex, no two stages look the same. Even better, as an homage to the great Shadow Dancer, you even get a bridge with some great looking water and background visuals. I also love the boss design. They look great with some pretty cool special effects. Whether it's the deadly laser beams, transparent teleports, or just some cool animation associated with their weapons, you really have to appreciate the effort. The only negative things I have to say about the graphics are that there are some moments of stiff animation, especially in the main character, and there are numerous special effects missing that were in the modern generation versions of this game. The main hero's walk is a bit off, and the double jump just doesn't feel like a natural extension that it should. You'll find this issue on some of the enemies as well, like when motorcycles just 180 in a few frames. In regards to the effects, the Dreamcast is missing some of the background sky animations. These don't seem like things the console would have issues with, but thankfully, it tends to be on things that you only notice when viewed side by side with the modern renditions. Overall, I love how it looks though, and I think most of you will as well.
Checkpoint.
The music of Shadow Games is pretty damn good. It has an old school metal feel to it, like it was pulled from a garage band from your teens. I like it, and here are some of my favorites to see if you do as well. So, what does Shadow Games get right and what does it get wrong? Let's get the bad out of the way first. I absolutely hate the shooting bonus stages. They are absolutely terrible with bullets that will clearly make contact with the enemies but not register a hit. I mean, take a moment and look at this. Losing because a hit doesn't register is so tiring, and it got to the point where I just didn't play these parts at all. I also didn't care for the lack of invincibility frames when you get knocked back. Being juggled in the wrong spot can cost you lives that lead to some vicious frustration, especially at the higher difficulty where death comes with a single hit. But where it fumbles in these areas, it excels in just about every other way. This is an homage to 1980s action arcade titles, and though it may seem simple by today's standards, I think it works so well. What comes off as just a button-mashing arcade game actually has quite a bit going on. The mines are great for boss encounters and taking out vehicles. The magic, which begins damaging from the center of the screen outward, is best used when the enemy is in the proper position to soak up the most hits. Your powerful melee attack also makes quick work of the toughest enemies, so how you position yourself for that attack means everything. You can pepper the screen with projectiles, but that isn't always the best strategy. The difficulty is also absolutely perfect. It seems tough at first, but there is a mode here for everyone. Rising Ninja gives you tons of continues, a few less enemies, a more robust life bar that allows you to take more damage, and bosses that put up an easier fight. Ninja balances things a bit more for a greater challenge. You die quicker, there's more enemies, and those bosses up the ante. Crimson Ninja is for the hardcore crowd, the people that want the most out of their games and plan to invest a massive amount of time in it. Here you die with a single hit, enemies flood the screen, and there are no continues. Only the best of the best need apply. You are also rewarded for all your hard work with a stage select as you defeat them. This allows you to always pick up on the last stage you fully defeated, no matter how many continues you had left the last time you played. I think you need to go into Shadow games with the proper expectations. If you love the gameplay of the era it pays so much respect to, I have no doubt this will have loads of appeal. If you are seeking something with modern sensibilities, keep on looking, because this is all about old-time quarter-munching ninja action. Finally, I am also happy with the overall level of quality this indie release accomplishes. There is polish here that I feel the developers should be given credit for. It's a complete experience, and feels like it could have been a genuine release in the late 1980s or early 1990s, and that's a huge amount of praise coming from me. Shadow Games is available in numerous forms to own. There is this Dreamcast version in both physical and digital options. You can also get it on the PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo platforms through their online stores. No matter what you have, there is a version for you. While the Dreamcast edition does lack a few of the effects of its modern brethren, it holds up quite well. The gameplay is just as smooth, the 480p visuals are still impressive, and the soundtrack still shreds. I think your opinion of the original Shinobi arcade game will play a big role in how you feel about this. Did you like the way that game played? Did you love the challenge? If so, it's an easy recommendation. If the developers decide to do a sequel, I'd love for them to incorporate elements of the later Shinobi games. The block, the kick, multiple forms of selectable ninja magic. Maybe even get some of those Game Gear Shinobi strengths in there. Selectable ninja with different weapons and powers would be awesome. There is a lot of room for this series to grow and recapture the things that made us love Sega's vision to begin with. And if for nothing else, more Dreamcast games is never a bad thing. I'm Sega Lord X, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.